The wind howled through the desolate city streets, sending shivers through Rusty's worn and matted golden fur. Winter had tightened its grip on the town, covering everything in a sheet of frost and biting at anything left exposed. Rusty had felt cold before, but tonight was worse. Tonight, the cold seeped into his bones, making every step sluggish, every breath a misty cloud in the darkness. The stray golden retriever mix had been surviving on scraps for as long as he could remember. He wandered from alley to alley, searching for discarded food, always wary of people who might shoo him away with curses or kicks. Some were kind, tossing him bits of bread or meat, but kindness was rare in these parts. Hunger had been his only constant companion. He trotted cautiously along a narrow alleyway, his paws pressing into a thin layer of snow. His stomach growled in protest. He hadn't eaten since yesterday morning when he found a half-eaten sandwich near the bus station. But hunger was nothing new. He could endure it. What he couldn't ignore was the sound, a faint, high-pitched cry. Rusty's ears perked up, his body freezing mid-step. He stood still, listening intently. The city had its usual noises, the distant hum of cars, the occasional shout, the rattling of a dumpster in the wind. But this was different. It was softer, weaker, yet desperate. A cry for help. Rusty moved forward, his steps cautious yet urgent. He sniffed the air, following the unfamiliar scent. It was faint but distinct, a mix of fabric, something human, and something fragile. He rounded the corner of the alley, where a row of overfilled garbage bins leaned against the brick wall. Beyond them, just past a rusted fire escape, was a small weathered cardboard box, and inside it something moved. Rusty's heart pounded. He crept closer, his breath coming in quick, misty puffs. He nosed the edge of the box, sniffing deeply. The scent was small, weak, helpless. He peered inside. A baby, tiny, barely moving. The infant was wrapped in a thin, frayed blanket, its face flushed red from the cold. Its tiny fingers trembled as it let out another fragile cry, barely above a whisper. The wind had begun to bury the box in a light layer of snow, as if the city itself had given up on this little life. Rusty didn't understand everything, but he understood enough. This small creature was alone, cold, just like he was. But unlike Rusty, it wouldn't survive the night. The dog's body tensed with instinct. There was no one else here, no warm body to shelter the baby, no comforting voice to soothe its cries. Just the empty, uncaring night. Rusty whined, pacing around the box, his breath fast and uneven. What could he do? He wasn't strong enough to carry the whole box, and he didn't have the words to call for help. His golden eyes flickered toward the main street, but the distant glow of streetlights seemed impossibly far. He had to move. Rusty leaned in, nudging the baby with his nose. The tiny bundle barely reacted, its breath shallow, too cold, too weak. Without hesitation, Rusty carefully grabbed the edge of the blanket with his teeth, being as gentle as he could. He tugged. It was loose enough to lift, but heavy. It was a struggle, but Rusty refused to let go. He had carried sticks, old newspapers, even food scraps in his mouth before. This was different. This was life. The weight of the baby was awkward, but Rusty adjusted, steadying his grip. He couldn't bite too hard, couldn't jostle too much. Every movement had to be precise, careful. The fragile bundle barely stirred. One step, then another. Rusty pushed forward through the snow, his paws numb from the cold. The wind lashed against his fur, but he ignored it. The baby's scent, the faint warmth against his mouth, was the only thing that mattered now. He moved toward the streets, his heart hammering. He didn't know where he was going, but he knew he had to get there fast. The night stretched ahead, unforgiving and endless, and Rusty ran. Each step sent tremors through Rusty's weary limbs, but he pushed on, focusing on the fragile weight in his mouth. The streets ahead were nearly empty, just flickering neon signs and dim apartment windows offering no help. The sidewalks, lined with cars dusted in frost, were uneven and slick. Rusty's paws slipped slightly on the ice, but he steadied himself, tightening his hold on the baby's blanket. A wrong step, a slip too harsh, and he could hurt the tiny thing he carried. He wouldn't let that happen. Not now. Not after he had found it. The city, vast and indifferent, seemed to stretch endlessly before him. Each alley looked the same, every street too wide, too empty. He needed warmth, people. Someone who would see the baby, not chase him away. The sounds of the city continued, distant and unaware of the tiny life Rusty carried. The occasional rumble of a car, the distant hum of a subway beneath the pavement. Yet, no voices, no footsteps. Rusty turned a corner, pausing only to adjust his grip, his breath coming faster. The baby made the faintest whimper against the cold air. It was still alive. But for how much longer? The golden retriever's thoughts weren't human, but instinct screamed at him. Keep moving. Find warmth. Find help. Snowflakes drifted from the sky, catching in his fur, melting against the heat of his breath. He ignored them, pushing forward. His paws burned from the icy ground, but the pain was nothing. The weight of the baby pressed against his mouth, but he refused to let go. Then, voices. Rusty's ears perked up, a flickering sign. Warm light spilling from a glass door. The faint scent of something familiar. Food. Humans. His heart pounded. He knew this place. Emily Carter's veterinary clinic sat at the edge of the neighborhood, its small waiting room usually empty at this late hour. Rusty had passed by before, sometimes curling up near the back alley in the hopes of catching the scent of discarded food. Emily had seen him a few times. Unlike most humans, she never yelled or shooed him away. Once she had even left a bowl of water near the door. Rusty didn't understand kindness the way humans did, but he remembered. And right now, Emily was the only person he could think of. He reached the clinic's door, his paws trembling against the slick pavement. It was closed. Rusty whined, shifting the baby slightly in his grip. He pawed at the door. Nothing. He barked, once, twice, loud enough to be heard through the glass. Inside, the lights flickered, casting a faint glow against the cold. Rusty barked again, desperation rising in his chest. He scratched at the door, the sharp sound cutting through the silence of the night. Then movement, a figure inside. A woman, her silhouette barely visible through the frosted glass. Emily. Rusty barked again, pacing anxiously. The bundle in his mouth felt heavier now, the weight of life pressing against his aching jaw. A lock clicked. The door creaked open, and warm air spilled into the night. Emily's eyes widened. She didn't see just a stray dog anymore. She saw what he carried. And then, everything changed. The night stretched endlessly, cold and unrelenting. Rusty's body ached, his breath coming in short, foggy bursts, but he refused to stop. The baby in his jaws was still. Too still. His grip on the frayed blanket remained firm yet careful, ensuring the tiny body remained secure. He pressed forward, through the unfamiliar streets, his paws numbing against the frozen pavement. The city was vast and indifferent, its towering buildings and flickering streetlights offering no warmth, no safety. Every turn felt like a maze with no escape. He had to find help, fast. The baby let out a faint, barely audible whimper, and Rusty's heartbeat quickened. The cries were growing weaker. Instinct screamed at him. Time was running out. The streets were not kind to a stray, especially not one carrying something precious. As Rusty trotted forward, his muscles stiff and trembling from exhaustion, he spotted movement in the shadows. A pair of gleaming eyes peered at him from a pile of discarded trash. Then another. A low growl rumbled through the alleyway. Rusty slowed, his hackles rising as two lean, hungry stray dogs slinked out of the darkness. They were bigger than him, thin but fierce, their ribs pressing through dirty fur. They had smelled something, food. They didn't see the baby for what it was, a fragile life. To them, it was nothing more than warmth and nourishment in a world that had given them nothing. Rusty tightened his grip on the blanket, taking a cautious step back. He couldn't fight. Not now. The baby would be crushed, injured. He had to be smart. The first dog, a wiry mutt with torn ears, took a slow step forward, his nose twitching. His companion, a mangy black hound, circled around, blocking Rusty's exit. A deep growl built in Rusty's throat. His legs trembled, not from fear, but from sheer exhaustion. He didn't have the energy for this, but he had no choice. The black hound lunged first, snapping at the edge of the blanket. Rusty twisted, narrowly avoiding the teeth, but the sudden movement nearly unbalanced him. He stumbled, but didn't let go of the baby. The wiry mutt saw his chance, darting in with a snarl. Rusty snapped his jaws, his teeth catching the dog's, muzzled just enough to startle him. The mutt yelped, stepping back. A distraction. That's all Rusty needed. With a burst of energy that he didn't know he had, Rusty spun on his heels and ran. Rusty didn't stop running. He couldn't. The snarls of the other strays faded behind him, lost in the distance as he wove through alleys, across slick roads, dodging piles of trash and patches of ice. The city blurred around him, a haze of lights and shadows. His lungs burned, his paws ached, and his jaw throbbed from holding onto the bundle so tightly. But he didn't let go. He wouldn't let go. Then, through the frozen haze of exhaustion, he saw it. A glow of warm light spilling onto the pavement. A small storefront, its sign flickering faintly against the darkness. The veterinary clinic. Rusty's heart pounded with a desperate hope. He knew this place. He had been here before, circling near, the dumpsters in search of scraps. And Emily. Emily had always been different from the others. She never shooed him away, never threw things or yelled. Once, she had even crouched down and spoken softly to him, offering a piece of bread. She was good, kind, she would help. Rusty pushed forward, his legs wobbling as he neared the door. The glass reflected his ragged form, fur dusted with frost, eyes wide with exhaustion, the small bundle clutched carefully in his mouth. But inside, it was warm. Safe. Rusty staggered to the entrance, his legs nearly giving out beneath him. He scratched at the door, his nails scraping against the glass. No response. His chest heaved. He barked, a rough, desperate sound. Still nothing. He barked again, louder this time. Then again. He pawed at the door, whining, his tail low, ears pinned, back in desperation. Inside, a faint movement, a shadow shifting against the dim glow of the clinic's lights. Rusty barked again, his voice growing hoarse. Then, the sound of footsteps. The door lock clicked. It opened, and there stood Emily Carter. Emily had been locking up for the night, exhausted from a long shift, when she heard the sound. The barking was familiar but urgent, desperate. She had seen stray dogs in distress before, injured, starving, lost. But when she opened the door and looked down, her breath caught in her throat. Rusty, a stray she had seen many times before, stood before her, shivering, breathless, wild-eyed. But it wasn't just Rusty. She gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Baby. A newborn baby, wrapped in a tattered blanket, clutched carefully in the stray's gentle jaws. For a moment, all she could do was stare. Rusty whimpered, stepping forward, carefully placing the bundle at her feet. The blanket shifted slightly. A tiny trembling hand peeked out. The baby was alive, barely. Emily dropped to her knees, hands shaking as she reached for the infant. She pressed her fingers to the baby's tiny wrist, searching for a pulse. Weak. Faint, but there. Dear God, she whispered. How long had this child been out in the cold? Her training kicked in. Emily scooped the baby into her arms, cradling the fragile body against her chest. The skin was icy to the touch. She had to act fast. Rusty whined, his golden eyes locked onto hers. Emily looked at him, really looked at him. His breath was ragged, his legs barely holding him up. His fur was damp with melted snow, patches of frost clinging to his paws. He had run through the cold, through the city, carrying this child, and he had brought the baby here. Emily swallowed hard. "Rusty," she murmured, recognizing him at last. You saved him." Rusty lowered his head, his tail thumping weakly against the ground. Emily straightened, holding the baby tightly. She had to move. Now. Emily rushed inside, cradling the infant as she moved quickly through the clinic. She grabbed a blanket from a supply cabinet, wrapping the baby tightly, careful not to jostle the fragile body. Rusty followed, his legs trembling, but his eyes never leaving the child. Emily reached for her phone, dialing emergency services with one hand. "This is Emily Carter. I'm at Brightwood Veterinary Clinic. I have a newborn infant suffering from severe cold exposure. Yes, I need paramedics immediately." Rusty let out a soft whimper, his body sagging against the warm floor of the clinic. Emily turned to him. She knelt down, brushing her fingers over his damp fur. "You did good, boy," she whispered. "You did so good." The baby stirred slightly in her arms, a tiny whimper escaping its lips. Still fighting. Emily held the child closer, her heartbeat thudding in her ears. Outside in the distance, the wail of sirens pierced the cold night air. Help was coming. Rusty, the stray dog with no home, had done something unbelievable, and because of him, this baby might just survive. The clinic's waiting room was eerily quiet, except for the faint whimpers of the newborn in Emily's arms. Her heart pounded as she carefully laid the baby on a padded examination table, her hands moving swiftly, trained from years of treating injured animals. But this was different. This was a human life, fragile and slipping away before her eyes. Rusty stood beside the table, his body tense, his golden eyes locked onto the tiny figure. His breathing was labored, his sides rising and falling in exhaustion, but he refused to sit or look away. His whimpers filled the silence, a sound so full of pleading that Emily's throat tightened. She had no time to process how unbelievable this was. A stray dog delivering an abandoned baby to her doorstep, defying all odds. Right now, she had to focus on what mattered. Keeping the baby alive. Emily ran a quick but thorough assessment. The baby's skin was dangerously cold to the touch. His tiny lips had a faint bluish tinge, and his breaths came in weak, uneven intervals. His limbs barely twitched under the blanket, his body struggling to generate enough heat. Severe hypothermia. Her stomach clenched. How long had he been out in the cold? She adjusted the blanket, wrapping it tighter around the small body. "Come on, little one," she murmured, pressing the back of her fingers gently to his soft cheek. There was movement, but it was sluggish, almost non-existent. She had to act fast. Rusty whined, nudging the table with his nose as if urging her to do something. "I know, boy," Emily said, moving quickly. She grabbed a heating pad from a nearby cabinet, plugging it in with one hand while still cradling the baby. Next, she pulled out a warm towel, wrapping it around the newborn to gradually raise his body temperature. Too fast, and it could send him into shock. Her mind raced as she worked. How had this happened? Who had left him out there? She had seen cruelty before, animals abandoned in dumpsters, dogs tied up and left without food. But this? A baby? In the dead of winter? Her hands trembled as she grabbed her phone and hit 911. 911, what's your emergency? "This is Emily Carter. I'm at Brightwood Veterinary Clinic," she said, forcing her voice to stay steady. "A stray dog just brought me a newborn. Baby, he's in severe hypothermia, barely responsive. I need paramedics immediately." There was a pause on the other end. "I'm sorry. Did you say a dog brought you a baby?" "Yes. Please, I don't have time to explain. The baby is cold and weak. I'm trying to warm him up, but I need medical support now." The dispatcher recovered quickly. "Understood. We're sending an ambulance your way now. How's the baby's breathing?" Emily checked again, her pulse hammering. Shallow. His color isn't good. She kept one hand on the baby's tiny chest, feeling the faint rise and fall. "I think he's still fighting." but he's not making much noise. The dispatcher's voice was urgent. Keep him warm. Try to stimulate him gently, rub his back, talk to him. Do you hear sirens yet? Emily tilted her head, listening. In the far distance, yes. They're close, she confirmed. Rusty let out a deep, anxious whimper, his tail low, his body shifting as if he couldn't stand still. He knew the baby was in danger. Emily swallowed hard. Hurry, she whispered, into the phone. She ended the call, placing her phone on the counter, and turned back to the baby. Gently, she rubbed small circles on his back through the layers of fabric, murmuring softly, "Come on, sweetheart, you're okay now, just hold on a little longer." A small sound, a faint, breathy whimper escaped the baby's lips. Emily exhaled in relief. It wasn't much, but it was something. Rusty, standing beside her, let out an excited huff, his tail thumping once before he nudged his nose against the baby's blanket. Emily placed a calming hand on his head. "You saved him," she murmured. But Rusty wasn't looking for praise. His eyes were locked onto the child, his ears perked for every sound, his body positioned between the baby and the door, as if protecting him from unseen dangers. Emily realized something then. Rusty wasn't just the one who found the baby. He wasn't going to leave him. Even as sirens grew louder, flashing lights filling the front windows, Rusty didn't move. He was staying. The clinic door burst open and 2 paramedics rushed inside carrying medical bags and a portable heater. Emily stepped back as they approached. "Newborn male, severe hypothermia. I've been slowly warming him. Breathing is weak, but he's still fighting." One paramedic, a woman with sharp eyes, took the baby into her arms, immediately checking his vitals. Her partner began setting up an oxygen mask. The woman's eyes flickered to Emily. "You said a dog found him?" Emily motioned to Rusty, who sat directly beside the paramedics, watching every move they made. His golden fur was still dusted with frost, his body trembling from the cold and exhaustion, but he wouldn't move. The second paramedic blinked. "No way," Emily exhaled. "Yes, he carried him here in his mouth. He saved his life." The woman paramedic securing the oxygen mask shook her head in disbelief but smiled slightly. "Well, that might be the most incredible thing I've ever heard." Rusty let out a small whine, his body tense as they prepared to take the baby away. Emily knelt beside him, gently stroking his head. "It's okay, boy," she whispered. "They're going to help him now." But Rusty wasn't okay. The paramedic stood, ready to transport the baby to the ambulance. As they moved toward the door, Rusty immediately tried to follow. "Hold on." Emily caught his collar just in time. Rusty struggled, letting out a low, desperate bark. His eyes were wide, pleading as if saying, "Don't take him away. I need to protect him." Emily's chest tightened. She could see it clearly now. Rusty wasn't just saving this baby. He had claimed him, and now he was terrified of losing him. She swallowed, glancing at the paramedics. "Wait." The woman holding the baby hesitated. "We need to move fast." "I know," Emily said quickly. "But please, let Rusty come. With us. He's been through so much he won't hurt anyone. But he needs to know the baby is safe." The paramedics exchanged glances. Rusty let out another desperate whimper, his body trembling. Finally, the male paramedic sighed. "We can make an exception, but he has to stay in the front with you." Emily smiled, relief washing over her. "I promise." She turned to Rusty, touching his face gently. "Come on, boy. Let's go." Rusty didn't hesitate. As the paramedics carried the baby to the ambulance, Rusty trotted beside them, never once looking away. The ambulance doors swung open as the paramedics rushed the fragile infant inside. Emily followed closely behind, Rusty at her side, his golden fur still damp with melted snow. The moment she climbed into the front passenger seat, the doors slammed shut and the vehicle lurched forward, sirens piercing the frozen night. Rusty sat on the floor at her feet, panting softly, his eyes locked on the baby nestled in the paramedic's arms. The sight of the child hooked up to oxygen tubes, his tiny chest rising and falling in shallow, uneven breaths, sent a deep ache through Emily's heart. She had seen suffering before: wounded animals, strays left to die, neglected creatures who had never known love, but this was different. This was a human life thrown away like nothing. She reached down, running a hand over Rusty's damp fur. "You're a miracle, boy," she murmured. Rusty let out a low whimper, his gaze never leaving the baby. The ambulance raced through the city, the flashing lights bouncing off the icy pavement. Snow swirled outside, painting the streets in a thick, ghostly mist. Somewhere out there, in the vast, uncaring city, someone had left this child to die, and Detective Marcus Hayes was going to find out who. Detective Marcus Hayes sat at his desk in the Brightwood Police Department, his calloused fingers drumming against the wooden surface. The moment the report had come in, a newborn abandoned in an alleyway, saved by a stray dog, he had known this wasn't just another routine case. Something about it clawed at him. Maybe it was the sheer cruelty of it, a baby left to die in the dead of winter. Maybe it was the eerie familiarity of it, the way it sent him back to a past he had spent years trying to bury. Or maybe it was because he had been abandoned once too. Hayes exhaled sharply, pushing the memories back. Focus on the case. He flipped through the initial police report. The baby had no visible injuries, no signs of abuse, only severe cold exposure. That meant whoever left him there hadn't wanted him to survive. But the real question was, who? His thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. A young officer, Patel, stuck his head in. "Detective, you're going to want to see this," Patel said. "We've got security footage from a nearby street cam." Hayes grabbed his coat. "Let's go." The security footage was grainy, the timestamp marking 11:52 p.m. the night before. The alley where the baby was found was just out of the camera's range, but the sidewalk leading to it was visible. Hayes leaned in, studying the screen as Patel pressed play. At first, nothing, just empty streets. Then, a shadowy figure emerged from the left side of the frame. A woman. She was wearing a hooded coat, her posture stiff, her movements hurried. She carried something small in her arms, clutching it tightly. "The baby," Hayes murmured. The woman hesitated near the entrance of the alley. Her face was obscured, the streetlight catching only a faint glint of her hair beneath the hood. Then, in a swift motion, she stepped into the alley and disappeared from view. 30 seconds later, she was gone. Hayes frowned. "Rewind, let me see her face." Patel tried zooming in as much as possible, but the hood and shadows made it impossible to see any clear details. She was in a hurry, Patel noted. "Look at her body language, like she didn't want to do this, but she had no choice." Hayes nodded. That was what unsettled him the most. This wasn't someone dumping a baby without a second thought. The woman paused, hesitated, almost like she was afraid. Who was she afraid of? An hour later, Hayes arrived at Brightwood General Hospital, where baby Noah, as the nurses had named him, was recovering in the NICU. His condition was still critical, but the doctors were optimistic. Emily Carter was waiting for him outside, the unit arms crossed over her chest. Rusty sat beside her, alert but quiet. Hayes took one look at the dog and shook his head. "You're telling me this guy carried a newborn across town in the middle of a snowstorm?" Emily gave Rusty a small smile, scratching behind his ears. "I wouldn't believe it either if I hadn't seen it myself." Hayes sighed. "All right, walk me through what happened." Emily recounted everything: the barking at the door, finding the baby, Rusty's determination to protect him. Hayes listened carefully, occasionally jotting notes in his worn leather notebook. "The baby had no identification?" he asked. Emily shook her head. "Nothing, just a thin blanket." Hayes frowned. "No birth certificate, no hospital bracelet. That means whoever abandoned him didn't want him traced." Emily hesitated. "Detective, do you think the mother was forced to do this?" Hayes exhaled slowly. "Maybe. I've seen cases like this before: scared, desperate mothers, abusive relationships, human trafficking." He rubbed the back of his neck. "Could be anything." He looked down at Rusty, who was watching him with intense golden eyes. "You're not letting the baby out of your sight, huh?" Hayes muttered. Rusty thumped his tail once but didn't move. Emily smiled faintly. "I don't think he ever will." After speaking with Emily, Hayes made his way to the viewing window of the NICU. Inside, tiny baby Noah lay in an incubator, wires attached to his frail body. Nurses moved around him, monitoring his progress. Hayes clenched his jaw. He had seen a baby like this before. Weak, helpless, abandoned. It had been him, left on the steps of a church when he was just days old. No note, no name, just a closed door and a winter night. He had spent years wondering why. Why hadn't his mother wanted him? Had she been like this woman, forced to leave him? Or had she simply not cared? It didn't matter anymore. He had stopped asking a long time ago. But as he looked at baby Noah, barely clinging to life yet saved by an unlikely hero, he felt something crack deep inside him. This case wasn't just another investigation. It was personal. Hayes took a deep breath, forcing himself back to the present. Find the mother. Find the truth. He turned on his heel and walked away. Rusty, still sitting with Emily, watched him go, his golden eyes knowing more than they should. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and something sterile, a contrast to the damp cold Rusty had, braved just hours earlier. He sat quietly beside Emily in the waiting room, his golden fur still slightly damp, his paws sore from the long journey. But despite his exhaustion, his gaze never left the door to the NICU, where baby Noah was recovering. Emily stroked Rusty's head absent-mindedly, her mind still reeling. A stray dog had saved a newborn's life. It was something out of a miracle or a heartbreaking tragedy. A nurse approached, offering a tired smile. "The baby is stable, but he's still in critical condition. He was lucky you found him when—" "You did?" Emily swallowed the lump in her throat. Lucky Rusty found him. But as relieved as she was, she knew Rusty couldn't stay in the hospital. He needed food, rest, warmth. He had been through too much. She knelt in front of him, cupping his scruffy face. "Come on, hero, you're coming home with me." Rusty gave a soft huff, his tail wagging slightly, but his eyes flicked back to the NICU doors one last time before he finally followed Emily outside. Emily's apartment was small but warm, filled with the soft scent of lavender candles and something vaguely reminiscent of coffee. Rusty patted, incautiously, sniffing the air before settling on the rug near the fireplace. Emily set down a bowl of fresh water and a plate of leftover chicken, watching as Rusty hesitated. She could tell he wasn't used to having a home. "You saved a life today," she murmured, kneeling beside him. "The least I can do is make sure you're okay." Rusty sniffed the chicken, then looked up at her before finally eating. Emily sat back, on the couch, exhaustion settling into her bones. The night had been overwhelming, but she couldn't stop thinking about Noah. Someone had left him out there. Someone had wanted him gone, and Detective Marcus Hayes was going to find out who. Brightwood police station was a mess of ringing phones and the steady hum of chatter, but Detective Marcus Hayes barely noticed. His focus was locked on the CCTV footage looping in front of him. The timestamp read 11:52 p.m. The grainy footage showed a woman, wrapped in a heavy coat, stepping toward the alley where Noah had been found. She hesitated. She clutched the bundle. In her arms, her movements stiff with what looked like fear. Then she disappeared into the darkness. 30 seconds later, she was gone. Hayes narrowed his eyes. Something about her body language didn't add up. This wasn't a cold-hearted abandonment. This was desperation. His partner, Officer Patel, stood beside him, arms crossed. "We ran the footage through facial recognition. No match. The angle's bad and the hood makes it worse." Hayes tapped his pen against his desk, deep in thought. "What about the baby's blanket?" Patel pulled out a photo of the thin, frayed fabric Noah had been wrapped in. It wasn't much, old faded blue with small patterns of stars, but it was unique. "We checked," Patel said. Turns out it came from St. Mark's Shelter. They give out donated blankets to women in need. Hayes's jaw tightened. That's a start. Patel hesitated. There's more. A shelter worker ID'd the blanket as part of a batch handed out about a month ago. And they remember who took it. Hayes looked up. Who? Patel handed him another file. Her name's Lena Marshall, 22. Reported missing 3 weeks ago. Hayes stared at the file, a sinking feeling settling in his chest. Lena Marshall had disappeared around the same time the baby would have been born. So where the hell was she now? Lena's file was thin, but what was there wasn't good. She had aged out of the foster care system at 18, bouncing between jobs and shelters. No family, no known close friends. A few minor charges, shoplifting, loitering, but nothing serious. Her last known address? St. Mark's Women's Shelter. Hayes leaned back in his chair. He had seen too many cases like this. Young women with nowhere to go, preyed upon by the wrong kind of people. Was Lena the kind of girl who would abandon her child? Or had she been forced to? He grabbed his coat. Let's go. The shelter sat at the edge of the city, nestled between a rundown laundromat and a closed-down convenience store. The sign out front was chipped, the paint peeling from the door, but inside it was warm. Hayes and Patel were met by a woman in her 50s, Margaret Holloway, the shelter's manager. Margaret's sharp eyes took in Hayes's badge before she sighed. You're here about the baby, aren't you? Hayes nodded. And about Lena Marshall. Margaret pursed her lips. Lena's a good girl, or she was. I don't know what happened to her. Hayes pulled out the photo of the blanket. You gave this to her, didn't you? Margaret's shoulders sagged. Yes, she came in about a month ago, pregnant, scared out of her mind. She didn't talk much about the father, but I could tell she was running from something. Hayes's jaw clenched. And 3 weeks ago? Margaret hesitated. She left suddenly. No warning, no note. One night she was here, the next morning she was gone. Patel frowned. Did she say anything before she left? Did she seem afraid? Margaret's expression darkened. More than afraid, she looked haunted. Hayes exchanged a glance with Patel. This wasn't a case of simple abandonment. This was something bigger. Back at the station, Hayes sifted through every missing person's report, every hospital record from the last few months. If Lena had given birth at a hospital, there would be a record, nothing. No birth certificate, no hospital records. It was like she had given birth in the shadows. Patel ran a hand through his hair. If she didn't go to a hospital, where the hell did she have the baby? Hayes exhaled slowly, his mind piecing together the puzzle. Lena Marshall had vanished 3 weeks ago. She had been pregnant, scared, running. She had disappeared the same time her baby should have been born. And now, the baby had been left for dead. Hayes' stomach turned. If Lena was alive, she was hiding. If she was dead, then who left the baby in that alley? One thing was certain. Lena Marshall was the key to everything, and he was going to find her. The walls of the Brightwood police station seemed to close in around Detective Marcus Hayes as he sifted through everything they had on Lena Marshall. Missing for weeks. No hospital records. A terrified young woman who vanished just before the baby was abandoned. He had handled countless cases. Runaways, abuse victims, criminals on the run. But something about this one nagged at him. She didn't leave that baby to die. Not willingly. Lena Marshall's early life had been a series of closed doors and dead ends. Raised in foster care, shuffled between homes, she had aged out of the system with no real family, no stable future. Then she met Tyler Grayson, a small-time criminal with big-time connections. Tyler had a record: drug possession, assault, illegal firearms. The kind of guy who always had a way of slipping through the cracks. At first, he had been charming. That was how it always started. Then the control, began the isolation, the fear. By the time Lena realized the danger she was in, it was too late. When she got pregnant, Tyler saw the baby not as a blessing, but as a liability. Officer Patel knocked on Hayes' office door. "We got a lead," he said, holding up a case file. "Lena might still be in the city." Hayes looked up sharply. "Where?" Patel dropped a photo onto the desk. It was grainy, taken from a traffic camera near an abandoned warehouse on the east side of town. A woman in a hooded sweatshirt moving quickly, her head down. The timestamp was from 2 nights ago. Hayes stared at it, feeling the familiar pull in his gut, the one that told him when he was getting close. "She's hiding," he murmured. "From Tyler." Patel nodded. "And if she's hiding, she's scared. Which means she didn't leave that baby in that alley because she wanted to." Hayes grabbed his coat. "Let's go." The east side of Brightwood was filled with abandoned buildings, places where people disappeared if they didn't want to be found, or if someone didn't want them found. Hayes and Patel parked a block away, moving quietly toward the crumbling warehouse where the traffic camera had caught Lena's image. The place was quiet, too quiet. Hayes scanned the area, his instincts on high alert. Something was wrong. Then, a sound, a shuffle, a breath. Someone was inside. Hayes nodded at Patel, signaling for him to cover the exit. Then he pushed the door open and stepped inside. The air smelled like mildew and damp concrete. Light filtered in through broken windows, casting jagged shadows on the floor. In the far corner, curled up beneath a tattered blanket, was a woman, thin, pale, eyes darting wildly as she spotted him. Lena Marshall. She scrambled backward, pressing, against the wall like a cornered animal. "Lena," Hayes said, keeping his voice steady. "Calm. I'm Detective Marcus Hayes. I'm not here to hurt you." Her wide eyes flickered with recognition, but also fear. Hayes took a slow step forward, hands open. "We know about the baby." Lena flinched, her breath hitching. I don't... "You don't have to be afraid," Hayes said. "We found him. He's safe." Lena's entire body shook. Her hands clenched into fists, knuckles turning white. "Tyler," she whispered. Does he know?" And just like that, Hayes had his confirmation. She hadn't abandoned that baby because she wanted to. She had abandoned him because she had no choice. It took time for Lena to talk. Patience. Hayes and Patel sat with her in the warehouse, letting her catch her breath, making sure she understood she was safe. Then, the truth spilled out. Tyler had been getting more dangerous, more unpredictable. When Lena got pregnant, she had hoped that it would change him, that maybe he'd want to be a father. She was wrong. Tyler saw the baby as a weakness, a liability, something that could get in the way of his business. "Wanted to run," Lena whispered, her voice raw. "But he had people watching me. I couldn't go to the police. He said he'd kill me if I did. I had nowhere to go." Her hands trembled as she wrapped her arms around herself. "I tried to hide my pregnancy for as long as I could, but when he found out," she swallowed hard. "He told me I had 2 options. Get rid of the baby, or he would." Patel's jaw tightened. "Son of a..." Hayes held up a hand, keeping him quiet. "So you ran?" Lena nodded. "I waited until he was passed out drunk. Then I took what little money I had and ran. I was living in a shelter for a while, but when I had Noah, I knew I couldn't keep him safe." Tears welled in her hollowed eyes. "Tyler would never stop looking for us. He has people everywhere. He would have taken Noah and I..." She choked on her words. "I couldn't let that happen." So she made the hardest choice of her life. She left Noah where she thought no one would find him. And Rusty did. Lena wiped her eyes, her shoulders trembling. "I didn't want to leave him," she whispered. "I swear, I wanted him to be safe." Hayes believed her, but something wasn't right. "You said you left him in the alley," Hayes asked. "What time?" Lena sniffled, thinking. "It was past midnight. I don't know exactly. I just put him down and ran." Hayes frowned. "Then why does security footage show someone else near that alley later?" Lena's head snapped up, confusion flashing in her eyes. "What?" We have footage of a woman at 11:52 p.m. leaving the alley, but she didn't run. She walked. Hayes leaned forward. If that wasn't you, then who was it? Lena's lips parted slightly in shock. It wasn't her, which meant someone else had been there. Someone who had seen Noah. Someone who had left him to die. The pieces of the puzzle shifted into something even more sinister. Lena was a victim, but now there was another player in the game, and Hayes was going to find out. Who? Lena sat on the stiff cot in the back room of St. Mark's Women's Shelter, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. The walls of the small space closed in around her, the fluorescent light above buzzing faintly, casting harsh shadows on her gaunt face. She had thought she'd never feel safe again. Even now, she wasn't sure she was. She flinched at the sound of the door opening, her body tensing out of instinct. But when she looked up, it wasn't Tyler standing there. It was Emily Carter, and beside her, watching her carefully with those deep golden eyes, was Rusty. Emily hesitated in the doorway, sensing the fear radiating off of Lena. The kind of fear that took years to build. She didn't move closer, didn't press. Instead, she crouched beside Rusty, running her fingers through his fur. He saved Noah, Emily said softly. Lena's bloodshot eyes flickered to the dog. I know, she whispered. Rusty's tail wagged once, hesitantly, as if sensing Lena needed something gentle. Emily sat down on the floor, waiting. Minutes passed. Rusty moved first. The dog padded forward, stopping just a foot away from Lena. He watched her, then gently lowered his head onto his paws, exhaling a soft huff. Lena swallowed hard, staring at him. Then, for the first time in weeks, she let herself cry. Her arms unwrapped from around her chest, her shoulders sagging. The weight, the fear, the exhaustion, all of it spilled out of her in a single broken sob, and Rusty stayed right where he was. Emily reached forward, placing a reassuring hand on Lena's knee. You're not alone anymore. Lena wiped her face, taking a deep breath, and then, slowly, she spoke. Tyler never wanted the baby, Lena murmured. Her voice was hollow, like a ghost telling a story from another life. He told me I was weak for getting pregnant, that I was ruining his life. Emily listened, her hands curled into fists in her lap. Lena sniffled, staring down at Rusty, who was still lying close, protective, patient. When I told him I wouldn't get rid of the baby, he started... She swallowed. Started hurting me. He said if I didn't get rid of him, he would. And if I tried to leave... Her breath hitched. He said he'd kill me. Emily's stomach twisted. Lena took a deep breath, clenching her fingers together. I knew I couldn't run forever. Tyler has connections. He has people who do his dirty work. I couldn't go to the police. He said he'd know if I did. Emily felt rage coil in her chest. How many women had Tyler done this to? Lena wiped her eyes. The night I left Noah in that alley, I thought it was the only way to keep him safe. I thought if I disappeared, maybe Tyler would stop looking. Emily swallowed hard, but he hadn't stopped, had he? And now, he knew the police were after him across town. Inside a dimly lit apartment on the east side, Tyler Grayson sat on the edge of his bed, clenching his jaw. The news was everywhere. Newborn found abandoned in alley. Stray dog saves child. Police investigating possible foul play. It didn't take a genius to figure out where the baby had come from. His baby. His problem. Tyler stood, pacing. He had stayed off the radar for years. Careful, smart. But now everything was unraveling. Lena was still out there. And if the cops found her, they'd find him? No, not happening. He grabbed his phone, dialing a number. Yeah? A gruff voice answered. We got a problem, Tyler muttered, rubbing a hand over his face. I need a place to lay low. A pause. Then, cops on your tail? Something like that. A low chuckle. You're screwed, man. Tyler's grip on the teal phone tightened. Just tell me where I can go. Another pause, then the voice said, South Side, old scrapyard. 2 nights max. Tyler hung up. Time to disappear. Back at the police station, Detective Hayes stood over the evidence board, staring at the photos pinned across it. Lena Marshall, baby Noah, Tyler Grayson, and now, a new lead. Patel rushed into the room. We just pulled a new piece of security footage. Tyler was seen leaving his apartment 20 minutes ago. Hayes straightened. Where's he headed? South Side. Word is he's got a connection at an old scrapyard near the docks. Hayes's fingers curled into fists, then let's go get the bastard. Rusty sat near the window, his ears perked up, his body alert. Emily was in the kitchen making tea for Lena, who sat curled up on the couch, exhausted. But Rusty's focus was elsewhere. Something was wrong. The wind howled outside, rattling the window panes. Rusty's nose twitched, a scent, a presence. His tail stiffened. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Emily turned. Rusty? What is it, boy? Rusty rose to his feet, his fur standing on edge. He trotted toward the door, sniffing at the crack beneath it. Then, a sound from outside, a footstep. Rusty's growl deepened. Emily exchanged a look with Lena, her own chest tightening. Someone was out there. The night air was thick with tension. The old warehouse near the docks loomed in the distance, its rusted frame barely standing against the cold wind rolling in from the water. It had once been a scrapyard, a forgotten place in a forgotten part of town, the perfect place for a man like Tyler Grayson to disappear. But Detective Marcus Hayes wasn't about to let that happen. His grip tightened around his gun, his pulse steady as he and Officer Patel crept through the darkness, their breath forming misty clouds in the cold air. Tyler was inside, and this was going to end tonight. Tyler paced inside the abandoned space, the dim glow of a flickering work light casting jagged shadows on the walls. His jaw clenched, his fingers tapping anxiously against his thigh. He had 2 options: run or fight. He wasn't the type to go down without a fight. His contact had promised a way out, but the guy was late. And Tyler wasn't stupid. The longer he waited, the closer the cops got. He pulled out his phone, dialing a number. Voicemail. Damn it, he hissed, shoving the phone back into his pocket. Then, a sound, a faint shuffle of boots on concrete. Tyler's blood turned to ice. They found me. Outside, Hayes signaled to Patel. The 2 officers moved in tandem, flanking opposite sides of the main entrance. A gust of wind blew past, rattling a loose piece of metal siding. Hayes exhaled slowly. Patience, timing, precision. He reached for his radio. We have eyes on the suspect moving in. Patel nodded, his hand resting on his holster. Hayes gritted his teeth. He had dealt with men like Tyler before, desperate, violent, dangerous. This wasn't going to be an easy takedown. He raised a fist, signaling Patel. 3, 2, 1. Then, they moved. The door burst open with a bang, sending a shockwave through the quiet warehouse. Tyler spun around, reaching for something, a gun. Don't even think about it, Hayes barked, his weapon already aimed. Hands where I can see them, Grayson. Tyler's eyes darted between Hayes and Patel, his breathing ragged, trapped. You got nothing on me, he snarled. You sure about that? Hayes shot back. We've got Lena's statement, the baby, surveillance footage, and I'm willing to bet we'll find a whole lot more once we tear this place apart. Tyler's grip tightened around the weapon in his waistband. You really want to go down for murder too? Hayes warned. Because that's exactly what this'll turn into if you make the wrong move. For a moment, everything was still. Then, Tyler moved, fast. He ripped the gun from his waistband, turning toward Patel. Hayes didn't hesitate. Bang! The gunshot echoed. Through the warehouse. Tyler staggered, a sharp cry of pain escaping his lips as he collapsed onto the floor, gripping his shoulder. Stay down, Patel shouted, rushing forward to kick Tyler's gun away. Hayes moved fast, pinning Tyler down as he slapped the handcuffs onto his wrists. It's over, Grayson. Tyler struggled, his breath ragged with pain and fury. You don't get it, he growled. You think this ends with me? You don't know who you're messing with. Hayes leaned in, his voice low and cold. The only thing that matters to me is that Lena and her son never have to live in fear of you again." Tyler's glare burned with hatred, but Hayes didn't care. This fight was over, and Lena had won. The next morning, Lena sat in the hospital room, her hands trembling as she waited. The room smelled of disinfectant and fresh linens, but all she could focus on was the small incubator in front of her. Noah. She had barely dared to hope that she would see him again. Then the nurse stepped aside, and for the first time in weeks, Lena looked down at her son. Tears welled in her eyes. Noah was so tiny his little hands curled into delicate fists. His breathing was slow but steady, his chest rising and falling in a perfect rhythm. He was alive. And because of Rusty, because of Emily, because of Hayes, he was safe. A sob broke from her throat as she gently placed her hand over the clear plastic of the incubator. "I'm so sorry, baby," she whispered. "I never wanted to leave you." A soft whimper made her turn. Rusty sat beside Emily, his golden eyes locked on the baby, as if he understood everything. As if he knew this was the moment Lena had been waiting. For Lena let out a shaky laugh, reaching out a hand. Rusty moved closer, pressing his warm head against her palm. "You saved him," she whispered, her voice breaking. Rusty let out a low, contented sigh, and for the first time in a long time, Lena didn't feel afraid anymore. Tyler Grayson was officially behind bars. The charges against him, aggravated assault, child endangerment, and attempted murder, meant he wouldn't be seeing the outside world for a long, long time. Hayes stood outside the hospital, watching as the morning sun broke through the clouds, casting a soft golden light over the city. It wasn't often that cases ended with something good, but this time, a baby had been saved. A mother had gotten a second chance, and a stray dog had become a hero. "Not bad for a night's work," Patel muttered, standing beside him. Hayes smirked. "Not bad at all." Inside, Lena held Noah for the first time, tears slipping down her cheeks. Emily stood nearby, smiling softly. Rusty lay at the foot of the bed, watching them all, his tail thumping gently against the floor, and for the first time in his life, he knew he had found his family. The cold morning air smelled of rain and fresh beginnings. Lena Marshall stood outside the courthouse, the weight of the past pressing against her chest as she held Noah close. For the first time in months, she was free. Free from Tyler's control, free from fear. And now she was about to take back the one thing that had ever truly mattered, her son. The courtroom was small but suffocating. The legal process had been set in motion the moment Lena had been found. There had been questions, investigations, endless paperwork. But in the end, the system had seen what mattered. Lena had been a victim, not a criminal, and she was determined to prove she was the mother Noah deserved. Emily sat beside her in the courtroom, a steadying presence, while Detective Marcus Hayes sat in the back, arms crossed, watching everything unfold. Rusty, of course, wasn't allowed inside, but Lena wished he was. It had been him, after all, the dog who had carried Noah through the freezing night, the dog who had never given up. The judge peered at Lena over his glasses. "Miss Marshall, given the circumstances of your case and your willingness to seek assistance in caring for your child, the court sees no reason why Noah should remain in state custody." Lena's breath hitched. "Effective immediately," the judge continued. "Your parental rights are reinstated under the condition that you continue receiving support and counseling as you transition back into stable housing." Tears welled in Lena's eyes. It was happening. It was real. Noah was hers again. She felt Emily squeeze her hand, and when she turned, her friend was smiling, eyes shining with quiet joy. Lena clutched Noah tighter, whispering against his soft hair, "We did it, baby." And for the first time since this nightmare began, she felt whole. Meanwhile, across town, Rusty lay stretched out on Emily's couch, tail thumping lazily against the cushion. For a dog who had spent most of his life in the streets, he had adjusted remarkably well to a life of comfort. But Emily knew something was still unsettled in him. It wasn't just about food or shelter. Rusty had found his purpose that night, the moment he had carried Noah to safety. And now, he was waiting for Lena, waiting for Noah, waiting for his family. Emily sat down beside him, scratching behind his ears. "You know you don't have to wait at the door anymore, buddy." Rusty yawned but kept his golden eyes locked on the front door. Emily chuckled. "Fine, but since you've decided this is your home now, it's about time I made it official." She reached over and set a collar on the table, a simple leather band with a gleaming silver tag attached. Rusty, her dog, her hero. Rusty's ears perked, sensing her emotion, and in response, he lifted his head and nudged her arm gently. Emily smiled. Yeah, I love you too." And just like that, Rusty finally had a home. Weeks passed and spring bloomed across the city. Lena had moved into a small apartment with Noah, getting the support she needed to start over. The nightmares of her past were fading slowly but surely, but one thing had remained constant: her visits with Rusty. She and Noah came to Emily's house every weekend. Noah, still tiny, would sit in his stroller, staring wide-eyed as Rusty curled around him, a silent guardian. Lena would run her fingers through Rusty's fur, the warmth of his presence healing something inside her. "Sometimes I wonder," she admitted to Emily one afternoon, watching as Rusty gently nudged Noah's tiny, and Emily looked over. "Wonder what?" Lena swallowed. If fate had a hand in all of this. Emily was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. "Maybe it wasn't fate." Lena raised an eyebrow. "No?" Emily patted Rusty's head. "Maybe he just knew." Rusty looked up at them, his tail thumping. Maybe he did. Maybe he always had. The days grew warmer as spring settled over Brightwood, painting the city in soft greens and golds. The past few months had been a blur of change, but for the first time in a long time, Lena Marshall wasn't afraid. She wasn't looking over her shoulder. She wasn't hiding. She was living, and every morning when she woke up to Noah's tiny, hands grasping at her shirt, his bright eyes searching for her face, she knew she had been given a second chance. They all had. Rusty lay stretched out in the backyard of Emily's house, his golden fur gleaming in the sunlight. He had never known a life like this before. A home, warmth, love. He still sometimes woke in the middle of the night, expecting to find himself back on the cold streets, with only hunger and loneliness as his companions. But then, he would hear the soft breathing of Noah in his crib, or Emily's footsteps as she moved around the house, and he would remember. He belonged here now, and he would never be alone again. Emily stepped outside, a cup of tea in one hand, watching as Rusty dozed beneath the shade of a tree. She smiled, shaking her head. "You really are living the good life now, huh?" Rusty opened one eye, his tail wagging slightly before he yawned and stretched. She walked over, kneeling beside him, running a gentle hand over his head. "You earned it, buddy." And he had. Lena sat at the kitchen table in her small but cozy apartment, flipping through a stack of papers, legal documents, custody papers, job applications, a life she was rebuilding piece by piece. A few months ago, she never would have believed she'd get here. She had been trapped in a nightmare, believing she'd never escape Tyler's grasp, never be free to raise her son. But she had fought. She had survived. And now, every night, when she rocked Noah to sleep, she knew she was strong enough to protect him. She glanced over at the playpen near the couch, where Noah sat, his tiny fingers gripping one of his soft toys. The baby let out a happy giggle, his chubby arms waving excitedly as he spotted something, or rather, someone. Rusty. Lena turned as Rusty trotted into the apartment, Emily following behind him. Noah reached for the dog immediately, his giggles turning into delighted squeals. Rusty, ever patient, plopped down beside the playpen, letting Noah grab at his fur. Lena let out a soft laugh. "You really don't mind, do you, Rusty?" Rusty huffed, his tail thumping. Emily grinned. "I think he sees Noah as his own now." Lena's smile softened. I think you're right. Across town, Detective Marcus Hayes sat at his desk, flipping through the final case report on Tyler Grayson. It was over. Tyler had been convicted on multiple charges: child endangerment, domestic abuse, aggravated assault, illegal weapons possession. He wouldn't be seeing the outside world for a long, long time. It should have been just another case. Another criminal locked away. But this case had been different. This case had forced Hayes to confront his own past. He thought back to his own childhood, to the nights spent wondering why his mother had abandoned him. He had spent years resenting her, thinking she had thrown him away without a second thought. But Lena had shown him something he had never considered before. Sometimes, people didn't leave because they didn't care. Sometimes they left because they had no other choice. He exhaled, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop being angry at the ghosts of his past. Maybe it was time to move forward. His phone buzzed, pulling him from his thoughts. Emily's name flashed across the screen. He smirked as he answered. Let me guess. You need me to come over and tell Rusty to stop stealing your socks? Emily laughed on the other end. No, but I do need you to come to the park. Lena and Noah are meeting us there, and I think Rusty wants to show off his running skills. Hayes leaned back in his chair, shaking his head. A few months ago, he never would have imagined himself spending a Sunday at the park with a stray dog and a once-missing mother and child. But here they were, and somehow, it felt right. I'll be there, he said. The story of Rusty the hero dog had spread far beyond Brightwood. The local news had covered it first, the stray dog who carried a newborn to safety in the dead of winter. Then, national news had picked it up. People had donated money to help Lena and Noah rebuild their lives. Animal shelters had seen a spike in adoptions inspired by Rusty's story. And now, months later, people still stopped Emily on the street to ask, "Is that the famous Rusty?" Emily always smiled. Yep, but he doesn't let the fame get to his head. Rusty, of course, would usually just wag his tail and ask for belly rubs. He was a hero, but at the end of the day, he was still just a dog who had found his place in the world. The park was alive with laughter and sunlight, children running across the grass, families spread out on picnic blankets. Lena sat beneath a tree, Noah in her lap, his tiny fingers curling around hers. Rusty lay beside them, his body stretched lazily in the sun, but his ears twitched every time Noah moved. Ever watchful, ever protective. Emily and Hayes sat nearby, watching as Rusty rolled onto his side, letting Noah clumsily pat his fur. He'll never stop guarding him, will he? Hayes mused. Emily smiled. Nope. Noah giggled, his tiny hands gripping Rusty's ears, and for a moment everything was perfect. The dog who had once been abandoned was now beloved. The mother who had once been powerless had found her strength. And the baby, who had once been left to die, had a future filled with love. The journey of survival, kindness, and second chances had come full circle. Rusty let out a deep sigh of contentment, his tail wagging as he watched his family. He was home, and he always would be.